by the way, is this all kind of sometimes spouse related or just general handyman advice?
General, we're adding value, but we're going to drop the name a few times.
Okay, cool.
All right, we're getting ready to go live. You ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the Sometimes Spouse podcast. Sometimes Spouse has weekly podcasts. On Mondays, it's Ask Amy. We have the Christy and Max show. We have Tuesday tips. And today, this Thursday, we have Ask an Expert with Quinten Hunt. I am so excited to have you today, Quinten. Please tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Quinten Hunt. My wife and I live in the Fort Worth area. We have been a part of the Sometimes Spouse family for almost 3 years now. And super excited. We've been building a great business there. And I'm excited and passionate about leadership, business, strategy and organizational training and things like that.
Awesome. So how did you stumble upon Sometimes Spouse?
Well, I applied through an Indeed posting after graduating college because it was hard to find a job in the management and marketing field. Why that is, I have no idea. It shouldn't be that hard. It's a really broad degree, but it was hard. So I started out as a branch manager and built a great business and franchised after that.
Awesome. Now, one of the questions that I always ask during an interview is, will you sing me a song or tell me a joke? Do you remember what you did?
The joke I told, I don't know if I what joke did I tell? Okay, I wonder if it was this one. Oh gosh, this is so bad. Should I say, okay, I wonder if I said, how do you stop black kids from jumping on the bed?
How?
You put Velcro on the ceiling.
Wow. I've heard it before. So
That's how we do things here in Fort Worth, Texas. Little side of edgy there.
And you're a handyman expert. So you've been doing the handyman services for over 3 years, and you manage people that do handyman services. So you've become an expert really relatively quickly. To become an expert, you have to spend an hour a day for 3 years on something. And you've definitely done that.
Yes, for sure. And I have a little bit of construction experience beforehand. But I've definitely spent so much more than an hour every day. Oh my gosh, for sure.
So you could be like a doctorate of handymanology.
Yes, for sure. I wrote the book on handymanology.
I'm going to have to get a certificate that says, doctorate in handymanology for the guys and then maidology for the girls, or wifeology or something.
Yeah, for sure.
That is awesome. So today we're going to talk about some of those home repairs that could be really dangerous around the house. So you need to get these things kind of checked out. We've been talking in February about some of those dangers around the home, and Quinten brought to my attention some of the things that really could be terrible around the house. So one of the first ones I've talked about with your wife when she was on the podcast last week, and I've talked about with Ask Amy, is mold. Tell me about that.
Well, first, let me say this to kind of frame this. Some of these are issues that we find when we go into a house. And some of these are just kind of general, like, things to look out for. It's not necessarily to alarm people, but it's to inform people. So that's kind of where we're coming from. So as far as mold is concerned, mold is one of those things that is obvious when you see it, but it does exist in places that you cannot see. So it is definitely important to look for signs of mold, or any kind of wood substrate that could be rotting, any kind of mildew or cold, dark, damp areas is a place that mold can grow in for sure. And then there's some practical places that you should check. Places where water might be leaking. So underneath the kitchen sink, behind washer machines, and then around window frames. These are all places that mold is probably at. Like if you have curtains, you probably have never looked at your window frames in years. But those are places that are really easy to just kind of pull back and check and see if you see any signs of mold or water damage. And of course, as you know, mold is dangerous to breathe in. It's dangerous to be in contact with in your house at all. And it's fairly easy to take care of on a surface level. You can use products like vinegar. I know there's some essential oil products as well to use. But then, with any kind of flood damage, so damage to your flooring, mold can grow in your floor, under your floor, behind your baseboards, and behind your walls. So these are all things that you could have an industry expert check out. And then there's companies that come in and do restoration after water damage. So they can eradicate mold fairly simply, and you might think it's thousands and thousands of dollars, but it's really more like hundreds of dollars.
Yes. So mold is super important to check for. I didn't even think about mold, but I went out today to check a home cleaning, and I noticed they had a shower curtain. And after Amy Lanford and your wife were telling me about you could even get mold on the shower curtains because we don't have it at home, I was like, oh, I have to look. They didn't have any I could see, but I had to look since it was a shower curtain.
Yeah, to me, anything that is on a surface long term, like dirt or like soap scum and film and mildew, like this is all places that mold is bound to occur. So gross. Clean that up.
Yeah, and Morgan, your wife was telling me that thieves actually that essential oil that's through Young Living can help eradicate the mold in a home.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's basically these microorganisms that eat bacteria, and so mold is a bacteria, and thieves will just eat it. So you could spray it on every day, and it would take care of it.
Yeah, that's what she said she did at your house, so you guys didn't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, because I'm not about that mold life.
No, that's for the other folk. We'll clean it up for you, though. What about, I know Fire Prevention Month is coming up. It's either in March or April. One thing that a lot of people forget to check is those smoke alarms.
Yeah, that's a common one. Most people don't even think about their smoke alarm until the battery goes out, and then you usually let it beep for weeks, which is dangerous, by the way. God forbid a fire happens when your fire detector or your smoke alarm and battery is dead. But anyway, what you need to do, especially if you've lived in your house for a few years, is you need to get up on a ladder and check the date. You need to pull down your smoke detector, and look at the date on it. If it's older than 10 years old or even getting close to 10 years old, just replace it. They're not made to work properly beyond the 10-year mark. So it's just good to just replace them. And what I usually tell people is if you're going to replace one, just replace them all. That way you know that they're all up to date.
That is a great tip. Another one is the air filter. People forget about those until summertime.
Right, or until they start noticing a lot of dust. So it's better to just set an alarm on your phone or on your calendar where every 3 months you change your filter. depending on the type of filter and the type of HVAC system that you have. Sometimes you got a 6-month filter or whatever, high efficiency or something, but just go according to the manufacturer's instructions on that and just make it a regular thing. Just like you go to the grocery store, swing by Lowe's, pick up another pack of filters.
Yeah, it's so simple nowadays just to put that stuff in your stinking phone for the air filters and smoke alarm, because that could really make the difference in your health, or with the fire alarms, that one could save your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about, my grandma, when she got up in years, we would always worry about her walking up the stairs at her house.
Yeah, so this is one of those things that goes undetected because it's probably something you do every day, and that's walk through doors and walk up and down stairs. And a lot of people have problems with their house, but they ignore them because they see them every day. If your handrail is loose, it is very important to get that repaired or replaced. If it's halfway hanging out of the wall, that's important. And then some people forget this one. For outdoor stairs, exterior stairs, deck stairs, porch stairs, anywhere that you have that handrail, it's very important that it's working properly and secure to the wall, to the studs where it should be, because that's just a danger and a fall or something waiting to happen.
Max is about 6'4", my husband. He's tall and bald. If anybody's ever saw the videos, they know that he is just like a tree walking around. And one of the funniest stories I have from when he went to go do an estimate with Sometime Spouse, I can't believe he told me because I make fun of him all the time for it, is he's doing an estimate on his phone or something as he's walking up to the customer's house, and he's not paying any attention, and there's a low-lying branch, and he goes smack right into it, and he lands on his butt. He came to the office and he was a little dirty. Maybe that's why he told me. But like tree trimming.
I mean,
he had a red mark.
Yeah, if that's not an incentive enough to trim trees for tall men in your life, there's several other reasons that you need to take care of your trees. I have a semi-funny, I guess it's not funny, but I have a story. It was funny to me. It wasn't funny to my client. So I have a client who we painted her house, and then she decided she's thinking about selling her house. So we did some interior crack repairs and stuff like that. And she has these huge trees in her yard, like over 100 feet tall. And they had a storm come through, and one of her branches fell in her neighbor's pool and damaged the liner. And she was freaking out because she was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars. And she's like, I don't have thousands of dollars in the bank. Well, fortunately for her, the guy was able to repair the pool himself. And he told her, don't worry about it. But after that, her insurance company was like, you need to have those trees trimmed. And so she learned all kinds of stuff about tree trimming that she didn't even know. And they let me know that a lot of people probably don't know about trees and the responsibility to the homeowner. So here's the thing. First things first, when you buy a home, you own the home, the property, and the trees. And so if anything happens with the tree, it is on you. So that is gonna, fall back on your insurance company or your insurance policy. So you may not know, but it's part of your responsibility as the homeowner to regularly trim your trees. So you need to call out an arborist or tree trimming company to have them check your trees, especially if they're older. They need to be kept up and trimmed and have the canopies lifted and all kinds of other things. Now, as far as potential risks, trees need to be trimmed because dead branches do fall. And that could be a risk to people, toys and kids and vehicles, all kinds of stuff. And then people think that, okay, if a storm comes through, it's the dead branches that fall. Well, actually, that's not true. If your tree has branches that are longer than they should be, they are even more susceptible in storms to fall off and be broken because the tree isn't made to handle those super long branches. So it's just good to have them trimmed. Why do I know so much about tree trimming? Because I have a background in landscaping. So it just kind of plays into some of my skill set.
Awesome. Another one is when you've got those babies that are, getting ready to climb, about 2 years old is when 18 months, 2 years old, when they start climbing up stuff. I mean, I was terrible about this when I was a kid. I would climb bookcases and they had to actually like attach them to the walls so they wouldn't fall over on me. I was a climber. So a lot of kids are. So one real danger in your home that you might not even consider is a dresser.
Right. And this one kind of gets a lot of publicity, but you may not understand the dangers if you're only thinking of it as the dresser in my baby's room. Babies are mobile. They go from room to room. So it's actually any piece of furniture that's tall enough to fall over. So if you have a heavy chair or heavy stool or heavy dresser, shelf, fancy piece of glass, artwork on the wall. These are all things that need to be secured as far as where they're placed in your home, and then secured to the wall and the studs if possible, because there's a danger that they can fall over.
Definitely. Another one you were telling me about was outlets.
Yeah, so we are a handyman company, and we do any kind of work around the home that doesn't require a license. Now, you as a homeowner can work, almost on anything around your house: pipes, wiring, electrical, whatever. But it's important that you know that if you have an outlet that is not working properly, you need to have that replaced or checked out by an electrician. You can't just leave that be, because power still goes to outlets that aren't working properly. And so that can be a danger. Another thing is if you have any outlets near a water source, so bathrooms, kitchens, and outdoor outlets should all be GFCI, which is a fancy way of just saying they shut off automatically to prevent any kind of electrical shock in the case of, water or fire or whatever. So those are all important upgrades as far as your outlets.
Is that why in the bathroom they have those little red buttons for reset?
Yes, that is exactly why. And also
I
fun.
thought it was just annoying.
No, it's to save your life. But also, fun fact, when you wire up a GFC outlet, let's say you put it in a kitchen where there's several outlets, but you just put one in near the sink. It actually activates the ability to shut off the other outlets for the entire run that it's connected to. So if it's on the same run as other outlets in a room, it will also shut those off. So you're covered.
Good to know. What about the hose you were telling me about? What was that all about?
Yeah, so, okay, this comes from a recent story I heard in a networking group that I recently joined. There's a guy in there who does emergency water damage and control and all kinds of stuff. They eradicate mold, they take care of fire damage properties. Basically, if you're freaking out and you're calling the cops or calling your insurance company, you're probably calling him next. So he was giving us some information about water damage because it's just such a massive thing. Like, you run your sink for a few minutes and it can fill up your sink, but if your sink was running overnight, thousands of gallons of water would be coming out. And so you got to imagine how some of those horror stories happen where people go out of town or they leave their house for a while and a pipe bursts or something and floods the whole house. So there's a couple things that you can do to check a few things. First of all, I like to tell people, check under your sinks. If you hear any water dripping, you need to get that checked out. That's not good. But then check your washer machine. The hose that connects to the wall, make sure that's tight because that can get loose over time and drip water. Even dripping water can still give hundreds of gallons of water over time. So like if you're out of town or overnight, you don't see it till the next morning, you could have a pond in your kitchen or laundry room. But the other thing is actually examine the hose behind the washing machine. If there's any bulges in it, that is a clear sign that hose is probably close to bursting. It could burst in a month or a year or whatever, but it's time to replace that because you do not want that hose bursting, especially if you're out running errands or out of town or something, because you're talking about massive amounts of water damage in your house.
Wow. That is some great tips that you gave us today that to keep our homes safe and keep us from spending thousands of dollars or somebody getting injured in the future. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, before I leave, I like to have everybody get your contact information. How can they get a hold of you, Quinten?
Well, I can be contacted via email, Quinten@sometimespouse.com. I'll spell it out for you, QUINTEN @sometimespouse.com.
Awesome. And before we leave, I always like to ask a fun question.
Okay.
So if there was a movie about your life, who would be the actor playing you and why?
Huh. I haven't thought of that since I was a kid because I had a girl I liked tell me I looked like Will Smith. So I guess I would imagine that Will Smith would be playing the story of my life. First, he's a damn good actor, and only the best should play my life. But I've had a pretty fun, exciting, and complex life. And so, you know, it can't just be a pretty face that plays me. It's got to be a deep actor.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Quinten, for joining us on the Ask an Expert podcast. I'm Christy Ogle with Sometimes Spouse, where weekly we bring you tips on handyman services, household cleaning services, business ideas, and then ask Amy on Mondays. Thank you so much, and we will be talking to you soon. Bye-bye.
See you guys.